presented by Exquisite Timepieces. More about them in the description down below and later in the video. The Oris Aquis, for me, has always been a watch that straddles the line between high-value dive watch and luxury timepiece. At a hair over $2,000, you get both a capable tool watch fit for any task and a high-quality luxury watch with outstanding fit and finish. There are just a handful of watches that fall into this category at this price, and the Oris Aquis is amongst the best of them. But something that many people viewed as a lack of legitimacy for the watch and the brand itself was that it used an off-the-shelf ETA or Sellita movement. And while this isn't a bad thing, those movements do, after all, save considerably when it comes to the cost of production. Having an in-house produced watch movement is often viewed as one of the hallmarks of a luxury watch. Enter the in-house Oris Calibre 400, an entirely new movement Oris says sets the new standard of automatic mechanical watch movements. And you know, they just might be right. Of course, this does come at a cost, and more about that in a bit. The Oris Aquis Date Calibre 400 is a 41.5mm diver that has a 48mm lug-to-lug length and comes in at about 13mm thick. The bracelet sits between the inner horn of the watch case at 22mm, but in my experience, with its somewhat integrated design and the generous amount of taper, this bracelet feels much thinner than a typical 22mm metal bracelet might. Now, being a diver, it does have 300 meters of water resistance rating, and of course has a signed screw-down crown. You have a stainless steel elapsed time bezel with ceramic graduated bezel insert, and a domed sapphire crystal with a great anti-reflective coating on the inner side. Of course, the big news with this model is the new in-house Calibre 400 movement. And if you recall, I mentioned that this new movement does come at a cost. Well, the standard Aquis Date has a retail price of $2,200, as previously mentioned. This new Calibre 400 model, it is priced at $3,500. That's a significant price premium over what mostly amounts to a movement upgrade. But is it worth it? I will say, in a word, yes. In terms of specs, at least the specs that matter to you and me, this movement is better than what's found in watches at 2 or even 3 times the price. First, and most importantly to me, is accuracy, and Oris regulates this watch in 5 positions to a rate of -3 to +5 seconds per day, which is, of course, as you know, exceeding COSC chronometer specifications. Secondly, it has a 5-day or 120-hour power reserve, and that is kind of unheard of at this price. Third, it is highly anti-magnetic, and I'm going to go ahead and quote Oris here. They say, for context, the latest version of the ISO standard for anti-magnetic watches requires that to qualify as anti-magnetic, a watch must be accurate to within 30 seconds a day after exposure to 200 Gauss. The Calibre 400 recorded 1/3 of the deviation allowed after exposure to more than 11 times the force permitted, making it highly anti-magnetic. Lastly, it has an advertised 10-year service interval, and it's also accompanied by a 10-year warranty. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure that anyone offers a 10-year warranty on their watches. I know Rolex and Omega, they only offer 5 years, if I'm not mistaken. It's an extremely impressive movement, and one that, frankly, I wish other brands would just license and build into their watches. Now, in terms of finishing and decoration, yeah, there's not much to it. There's really not a whole lot to look at here. But I think that's a good thing. It keeps the costs down, and it takes a watch that could have cost as much as double the price to a much more reasonable and a much more accessible level. Although, it does sort of defeat the purpose of having a display case back. But that is what it is. Now, the new movement aside, this is otherwise a fairly standard Oris Aquis Date, which is to say that it's a pretty great watch regardless of the movement. The stainless steel watch case and the bracelet finishing, it is excellent. The smooth, brushed surfaces look as good as a watch at a much higher price point, and the mirrored polishing on the lugs and the bracelet links are nice without being overdone. The elapsed time bezel on the Aquis with its ceramic blue insert both look and feel awesome. The edge texture and the bezel action, it maybe isn't quite as good as some of the true top-tier luxury divers, but we're kind of splitting hairs at this point. It's still extremely excellent. The Oris Aquis dial, it is fantastic. This is the Radiant Blue dial, and I imagine this will be a fan favorite. Its colors, they are rich, and they're dynamic, and as nice a sunburst dial as I've ever seen. The high-polished and applied markers, as well as the polished central hand stack, stand out against the dial and are both very well finished and exceptionally legible. And, of course, the marker's hands and the bezel's zero marker, they are lume-filled for low-light legibility as well. I will note, though, that the lume, it could be a bit brighter. Now, it's not bad, but it's certainly not Seiko-level lume. How is it on the wrist? Well, as you can see, on my 6 3/4-inch wrist, it wears quite well. And I'd say that the integrated style of the bracelet gives it a fit that feels perhaps a bit smaller than the 41.5mm size might suggest, which for me is a good thing. But if you're looking for something with a bit of a bigger fit and a bigger feel, there is also a 43.5mm model, so no worries, there is probably something out there for just about all wrist sizes available. I've been a fan of Oris watches for quite some time now, and the Aquis is one of their flagship models. And overall, I think it's an outstanding watch. Now, stylistically, being a subjective opinion, no, it's not my favorite design. I actually prefer the style of the Oris Divers 65 if I had to pick between the two, and that was if it's based on looks alone. However, there is no contest when it comes to the build, the quality, and even value for money. Not only is the Aquis Date Calibre 400 the best of what Oris has to offer, it's a lot better than what many watchmakers are offering as well, and I can't help but recommend it if you're looking for a high-value, high-quality luxury diver. This video is presented in partnership with Exquisite Timepieces, located in Naples, Florida. Exquisite is an authorized dealer of dozens of watch brands, including Seiko and Grand Seiko, Omega, Oris, Blancpain, Breguet, and many more. Exquisite also has an amazing selection of pre-owned watches with new inventory coming in daily. So if you're looking for your next watch, check their website, exquisitetimepieces.com, or call their store at 239-227-2932, and let them know that you heard about them from Guy and the Just Blue Fish channel. I can't recommend them enough.